Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you can hear my dog in the background, I'm so sorry. Yeah, he's just panting like there's no tomorrow. He's breathing in and out.
With gusto.
And yeah, I'm very sorry about my dog. But for today's video, I wanted to talk about the White Tower and the various AJAHS within the White Tower. And when I conceived of this idea to rank the AJAHS, I kind of thought, like, well, you can't really rank them, right? Because they all perform a very essential function to the tower. And then I kind of thought about it a little more and I was like, well, some AJAHS are definitely better than other AJAHS. So in today's video, I'm going to be ranking them, and I'll have you know, this is the only objective correct ranking. Obviously, I'm kidding. If you disagree with my ranking, I would love to hear your thoughts and your ranking. Tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Fair warning that this video will contain spoilers for most, if not all, of Wheel of Time. So if you haven't read the books, this video is not for you. I'm very sorry. With the dubious honor of last place, we have the White Sisters. Like, I don't really have anything to say about the White AJAH because, like, they don't do anything. I literally cannot remember a single important thing that a White Sister did throughout the whole series. Like, I just can't. The one thing that comes to mind is, I think it was Sareen, who is an AES SEDAI of the White AJAH. There's my dog. He's the one who's been panting this whole time. And the one thing I can remember about Sareen is that she writes poetry about her warder, which honestly is kind of a great example of, you know, the problem with the White AJAH, which is that they try to be emotionless and completely logical, which is kind of illogical in and of itself. Like, humans are intensely emotional creatures. So for an entire AJAH to try to deny that and try to divorce humans from emotions and just like try to find the truth outside of emotions, to me just is a very flawed premise to begin with. History can be explained away by just the emotions of humans. So like there's really no point to the White AJAH in my eyes. And you know, I don't think it's any mistake that they are the smallest AJAH in the White Tower. Next up, we have the Grey Sisters. Now, I like the Grey Sisters. I feel like they do their job. They get the job done. They're not too flashy, but I think that also means that they're a bit boring, for a lack of a better word. My favorite Grey Sister is definitely Merilyle, and it's more out of pity than anything. She gets sucked into this deal with the Sea Folk, and I think that the situation with Merilyle and the Sea Folk is a great example of how Aes Sedai think that they are these like alpha women and they can take control of any situation, and you know, they're just the authority on everything. But then they come into contact with these Sea Folk who have been hiding from the White Tower for years, that they have incredibly talented channelers, and it kind of exposes the Aes Sedai for being a very flawed organization. Coming in at number 3, we have the Green AJAH. And you know what? I have beef with the Green AJAH because, hear me out, it has a lot to do with bonding, which is a topic I haven't really talked about on the channel before, but I have a lot of thoughts about bonding, and I actually want to do a whole video on bonding in the Wheel of Time and how messed up it is, especially as it pertains to the Aes Sedai and the way that Aes Sedai bond their warders. Basically, I think that the culture within the Green AJAH in regards to warders is just very messed up. And the prime example of this is Alanna bonding Rand without his consent. There's also Myrelle and Lan later on, but I think Alanna and Rand are kind of the epitome of what I'm talking about, because I think the way that other Green Sisters react to this situation is very telling of the culture within the AJAH. What I'm talking about specifically is Cadsuane. When Cadsuane finds out about Alanna bonding Rand against his will, she outwardly condemns it, but inwardly she thinks to herself that if I was in that same situation as Alanna, I would have done the same thing. And that to me is very, very creepy and very telling of the way that Greens treat their warders. Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into this quagmire that is the Green Aja and bonding warders and power dynamics and all of that. It all has to do with why I am not the biggest fan of the Green Aja. I will admit that the Greens are pretty badass, like just the idea of having a battle Aja that is just dedicated to warfare and just using the one power in battle is like kind of terrifying, to be honest. I mean, throughout the series we have multiple examples of the one power being used in incredibly brutal ways, and I think that was always very interesting to read about. And I think that kind of comes to a peak in The Gathering Storm when Egwene kind of goes full-on berserk and takes on what feels like the entire Shan-Chan army single-handedly. That to me was the embodiment of everything good about the Green Aja, but I just can't ignore all of the other stuff, and for that reason I'm not the biggest fan of the Green Aja. Okay, so hear me out, but Reds are like my problematic faves. You know, I think that they get the short end of the stick either way you cut it, because they have to do a very unsavory but necessary thing in order for not only the survival of the White Tower, but like the survival of the world at large. You know, recall that thousands of years ago, male channelers literally broke the world with how much power they unleashed and the madness that got to them because of the taint. Someone needs to take care of this problem, and it just happens to fall to the Red Aja. And you know, they have a bad reputation for a reason. I think that the ways that they deal with this problem definitely could have been more humane, and you know, there is a lot of corruption within the Red Aja. If you think about it logically, like as a dark friend, you are probably gonna pick the Aja that has a lot of interaction with male channelers because the Dragon Reborn is a male channeler, and just like statistically, you have a higher chance of finding the Dragon Reborn if you choose Red Aja. You know what I mean? Like it's just logical that the Red Aja would have the most dark friends, so I don't necessarily hold that against them, to be honest. Not to mention Elida, who is kind of like the most easily hateable character in all of Wheel of Time. So that's another ding against the Reds, but I don't know. Personally, I find them really interesting. I think that they have the best story arc overall throughout the series. I really liked that there were AES Sedai like Pivara and I think Teslin, who becomes friends with Matt later on. I think those were really great examples of the Red Aja at its best, and I thought it was really interesting how by the end of the series, the Red Aja kind of pivoted from being enemies and diametrically opposed to male channelers, but by the end of the series, the Red Aja was kind of poised to be the liaison between the White Tower and the Black Tower because of the bonds between Pivara and Androl and all of the other Red Sisters. You know, I thought it was really interesting how, ironically, by sending so many Red Sisters to the Black Tower, Elida ends up setting the stage for a really great relationship in the future between the Black and the White Tower. I would be lying if I said that Nynaeve isn't the main reason that I'm ranking Yellow so high, because I love Nynaeve. She's amazing, and in a lot of ways she is such a great character because she's such a great foil to the AES Sedai, and she really exposes a lot of the faults within the organization. But I also think that in general, the Yellow Aja's mission of healing and just, you know, helping humans is a very straightforward and noble pursuit, and I don't think that anyone can kind of argue with that. One thing I really liked was how as soon as every Yellow Sister hears that Nynaeve has developed this new way of healing, they all immediately just want to corner her and learn from her and learn how they can get better as healers, and I thought that was really cute. And I know that obviously Nynaeve doesn't like it and she's kind of annoyed, but I thought that as a whole it reflected really well on the Aja, and they're the most unproblematic Aja. They heal people and they're cool. That's all there is to it. And finally, that leaves us with the blue and the brown Aja. And it took me a while to come to my final decision of which Aja is the best, because if I was personally and accepted in the White Tower, I don't really care about any of the other Ajas enough to be a part of them, but these are the two that I think would actually be the best fit for me and that I would actually thrive in and, you know, have a lot to contribute to, because Brown Aja has the best culture of any Aja. I think that, you know, just this idea of dedicating your life to knowledge, and especially if you live hundreds of years, that's definitely what I would want to do, is just dedicate my life to reading and finding out more about history, and, you know, just holing up in the library and just reading as much as I can all the time. That sounds like heaven to me. Either that, or I would want to dedicate my life to one cause that I was really passionate about and that I felt like I could make a real impact in and make a positive change in the world in that one area, which is obviously what the Blue Aja does. And, you know, in terms of characters, Moraine and Swan are kind of like the backbone of the series. I mean, Moraine is so instrumental in mentoring Rand and setting him on the right path. I think that Swan is criminally underrated in the fandom for how much she sacrifices and, you know, how much she keeps fighting and resisting no matter how much she loses. I mean, stealing is described as being worse than death for channelers, and she keeps resisting in any way she can, no matter what. And I love Swan for that, and that is the kind of person I would like to be in real life, to be honest. And then there's Varen, who is again one of the best characters in Wheel of Time, and I think that her storyline and her plot twist at the end was not just one of the best plot twists in the entire series, but just as a whole in all of the literature I've read. It's just one of the most well executed plot twists ever, because you kind of know throughout the series that there's something up with Varen, but you know, that reveal is just so satisfying. And I think that Varen, in her own way, and the way that she resists, is so compelling. And again, she's the kind of person that I wish I could be in real life. So it's hard to choose between the two, but after thinking about it, I'm gonna have to give first place to the Blue Aja. I think that they are the bad bitches of the tower. They're not afraid to be a little controversial, to do the right thing, but I think they always have their heart set in the right direction. And at the end of the day, I think that Moraine and Swan, the way that they dedicated their whole life to this one cause and how the culture of the Blue Aja enabled them to do that, is probably just one of the best things about the series. So I'm gonna have to give it to the Blue Aja. And Brown Aja in second place. Very close, neck and neck for me, to be honest. But for me, I think the Blue Aja edges out just slightly. And yeah, again, this is just my personal ranking of the Ajas. I would love to see all of your guys' take on this, and I think it's a really interesting question to ask yourself. The White Tower is just one of the most interesting organizations within Wheel of Time and just all of fantasy, to be honest, because it is so flawed. It's an organization that's corrupted, and to be honest, I think it's all the more compelling for how flawed and corrupted it is throughout the series. At the end of the day, you know, light prevails, and characters like Egwene and Moraine, Swan prevail, and they overcome that corruption, and that to me is one of the most satisfying things about the entire series. Thank you so much for watching this video. I had a lot of fun filming it. I got a little heated, and I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!